Welcome to this week's JMC Network Sportscast. I'm Hannah Little. The men's and women's basketball teams picked up victories in their respective season openers. The men's team defeated Hillsdale Baptist University last weekend with a score of 101-61. The team then played one of its biggest games of the season against University of Tulsa on the road Wednesday and lost 39-65. The Wildcats will take on Duquesne University this Saturday at 4 p.m. in Moody. Head coach Joe Golding summarizes what expectations the first two games set for the team.
Yeah, we want to be competitive. This is year number 2, so we want to be able to compete and be competitive. It's tough. You look around the country at all the low majors right now, especially teams in the South, and that are, it's kind of the way it is. You go play these guaranteed games, which is what we did against Tulsa, and people in our conference have to do that. And so it's tough because we want to be able to compete in those games and see the progress in year 2 with the transition. But you also got to be careful in those games. You don't lose confidence. That you stay a confident ball club. And you continue to get better every night.
The women's team brought in 2 victories last weekend at home as the Wildcats defeated Wayland Baptist 91-64 and Howard Payne 102-60. The Wildcats then hit the road to play University of Texas San Antonio, where they lost 70-57. The Wildcats will take on Eastern Washington University this Monday at home and then travel to Kansas City, Missouri over Thanksgiving break to compete in the Plaza Lights Classic. Head coach Julie Goodenough recaps the season opener.
Well, obviously you love playing at home, and I love to have a schedule that works out where we can play the first 1 or 2 games at home in front of our home crowd, play in Moody where we practice almost daily. So I thought our players came out and played with a lot of confidence, a lot of energy to start the season. It gets to a point where you're just sick of working out against each other, and it's so fun when games finally roll around. So I was really pleased with the way we started the season.
The ACU football team swept the Southland Conference Player of the Week honors thanks to the outstanding performance in its last game of the season. Offensive Player of the Week went to DeAndre Brown, Defensive Player went to Justin Stevens, and Special Teams Player went to Nick Grau. The Wildcats were awarded honors after the 37-35 win over Stephen F. Austin. Here is Daniel Zepeda with a recap and highlights of the big win.
ACU took on SFA last Friday in Nacogdoches in hopes of earning one final victory of the year and avoiding the team's first losing season since 2005. Temperatures were in the mid-40s as wind was also a factor for both teams throughout this one. SFA would give it to the leading rusher in the Southland Conference, Gus Johnson, early on, and eventually would lead to a lumberjack touchdown on this 8-yard run to give Stephen F. Austin an early lead. But in a game that would turn out to be a battle of the running backs, DeAndre Brown would take the handoff for 66 yards to the house to tie things up early in Nacogdoches. The Wildcats would continue to feed the ball to Brown as he would run it down to the SFA 23-yard line before being forced out of bounds, earning a 31-yard pickup. The drive would end with a 35-yard field goal by kicker Nick Grau, putting the visiting Cats up 10-7 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. The defense, like in many games before, would force a Johnson fumble by Damon Williams and give the ball back to ACU, cutting the Lumberjack drive short. SFA would get the ball back and go on an 8-play, 89-yard drive, ending with a touchdown from Zach Conk to DJ Ward to put SFA up 14-10. The Wildcats will continue to use the run game as Brown takes it out of the Wildcat formation for 30 yards. On the following play, Parker McKenzie would find Jace Hudson for a 36-yard touchdown to put the Wildcats back up 17-14, while going 66 yards in just under 40 seconds. The Lumberjacks find the end zone on its ensuing drive as Conk would keep it himself for a 30-yard touchdown run, making it 21-17 SFA.
Zach Conk. 30 yards.
McKenzie would find Kate Stone on this short pass as Stone would stay on his feet before finally being brought down after a 45-yard gain, moving the Wildcats into the red zone midway through the second quarter. Brown would rush for 19 yards, in for a touchdown to give ACU a 23-21 lead over the Jacks.
DeAndre Brown with the touchdown.
The defense would keep Johnson and the offense at bay in their following drive, forcing them to punt with less than 2 minutes in the half. The Wildcats would go down to make a field goal to go up 26-21 at halftime. ACU would start their second drive of the half from their own 1-yard line, trailing 28-26. Brown would rip through the defense for a 53-yard run before being brought down at the 45-yard line. McKenzie and the offense would continue to drive the field until giving it to Brown, who would put together another touchdown run, giving ACU a 34-28 lead to end the third quarter. DeAndre Brown would end the game with 3 touchdowns and a career-high 256 rushing yards on the day. The Wildcats would go for 2, and a little trickery would show a role reversal in which receiver Cade Stone throws for the score to quarterback Parker McKenzie to give ACU the 2 points. Johnson would start the fourth quarter off with a bang, going for 31 yards in for a touchdown to give SFA a 1-point lead over ACU 35-34. On a 4th and 11 situation, head coach Ken Collins decides to go for it. As Parker McKenzie would air it out to Cedric Gilbert, it would be ruled an incompletion, but a flag would be thrown, signaling for pass interference, giving ACU the first down inside the 20. The Wildcats would settle for a field goal with under 6 minutes remaining, leading 37-35. SFA would march down the field and line up the go-ahead kick. The kick would be no good, and ACU would hold on to its lead with just over a minute left in the ballgame. ACU would be forced to punt back to SFA as they would get one last chance to pull off a miracle in Nacogdoches. Got the ball but were unable to put a drive together as ACU would hold on for the win 37-35, moving to 6-6 overall on the year and 4-4 in their first year of Southland Conference play.
Thank you for watching the JMC Network Sportscast. See you next week. I'm Hannah Little.